I want to talk about Egyptian weed. Let's do that. Let's talk about something not depressing. All right, so let's talk about Egyptian weed, shall we? Turns out Egypt was all about it. I don't know if they actually smoked it. Probably. I don't see why they wouldn't have, but they used it for what we now know is very important, medicinally, and for paper. Here, check this out. This is how scholars think ancient Egyptians used cannabis 3,500 years ago. It's funny to think back on the reefer madness era in the United States in the 1930s, which, by the way, I've talked about this on my show a long time ago, a year and a half ago almost, about how that was all propaganda to ruin the image because it was actually an incredibly cheap way to make paper. And the newspaper guy, I forget his name off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but he owned a paper mill and a newspaper, and then basically the hemp industry would have put his paper mill out of business, so he spent all this money to get it, put reefer madness out and make it seem like it was the craziest drug. Anyway, continuing on. At a time when political leaders demonized cannabis and planted the seeds for the war on drugs. After all, the U.S. had not even existed even 200 years. Compare that to ancient Egypt, a weed-friendly civilization that flourished and dominated the known world for about 3,000 years, that we know about anyway. That's what they tell us, 3,000 years. I don't know if that's the truth or not, how long that civilization was. Lawmakers in the United States and most of the Western world are now catching up with what leaders in that long-ago civilization knew to be true. Medical marijuana has the potential for treating a variety of conditions. It's true. They also found uses for hemp that included making fabric, rope, and ship sails. And discoveries in burial chambers had led researchers to believe that the Egyptians used cannabis during burial ceremonies, much like they did in ancient China. Reefer madness indeed. Ancient Egypt lasted for about 30 centuries. It started about 3,100 BCE when the different factions of Egypt united, ending when Alexander the Great conquered it around 332 BCE. During those thousands of years, Egypt reigned as the most powerful and influential civilization in the known world. Yeah, known world. During that time, they learned a thing or two. Some of these things included marijuana. In a paper on the topic, Venice Ibram Attia, chief conservator at the Coptic Museum in Cairo, draws together many expert sources throughout the years on the use of hemp and cannabis in ancient Egypt. That includes use in rope, ship sails, food and oils, fabrics, and an ingredient in medicine. While he wrote that evidence Egyptians cultivated cannabis is scarce, there is ample evidence they used it in the above circumstances and religious and cultural ceremonies. He cited the many different works that mention cannabis, starting with the famous Ebers Papyrus, a document from 1550 BCE that researchers believed is copy from older texts. It says the use of marijuana is medicine. The Eber Papyrus refers to different magical spells that Egyptian doctors could use to help cure people of various maladies. Some of them involved the use of cannabis. For example, the Ramesseum Papyri, one of the oldest medical records ever discovered, notes that celery cannabis is ground and left in the dew overnight. Both eyes of the patient are to be washed with it in the morning. Apparently, the doctors used this treatment for glaucoma and other eye issues. They may not have been right on the details, but they were on the right path, thinking of the potential medicinal uses of cannabis. Many experts believe the term Shemshemet referred to cannabis in ancient Egyptian text, and scholars have found the word in many different sources over the years. In her book, An Ancient Egyptian Herbal, Egyptologist Lise Menich writes the cannabis is one of the many plants used by the Egyptians in a culture that promoted plant-based medicine. Some of the uses, according to the experts who have read the text, include as an anti-inflammatory, as part of a salve applied to the vagina to cool the uterus and eliminate its heat, a seeming reference to treating menstrual pain, used as part of a balm to reduce the pain of injured fingers or toes, as an ingredient, as a suppository to reduce the pain of hemorrhoids. All right. Attio notes that the Diodorus Siculus, the Sicilian Greek historian, also mentioned that Egyptian women used cannabis as a kind of medication relieving sorrow and bad humor, relieving insomnia and anesthetic, and to kill pain. That essentially describes the way many use cannabis today. Another sign of cannabis use in ancient Egypt is historical records showing Roman Emperor Aurelian imposed a tax on Egyptian cannabis in the 3rd century. Experts have noted depictions of the plant that can be found in ancient Egyptian carvings. For example, artists used depicted of the ancient goddess Sheshat, the deity of writing and record keeping, with a 7-pointed star-shaped leaf above her head, leading some to believe this shows the importance of cannabis. Scientists have found traces of THC in the remains of many mummies, starting with Ramses the Great, who had cannabis residue in his mummified body. Scientists also have found traces of THC in the lungs of mummified Egyptians, indicated that they may have used marijuana for medicinal purposes before dying. Yeah, sure. That's what it was. They're like, no, if I'm gonna go out of this, I'm gonna go out high. Anyway, while the details remain a mystery, it's clear ancient Egyptians used cannabis in many different phases of life. As civilizations go, they did very well indeed. Something to consider the next time national legalization comes up in the United States. And on that segue, it basically has been coming up. I'm fairly certain it's actually legal here in Illinois, that you can go to a store without a medical card and just get it, which is crazy because growing up when I was in high school, when I absolutely did not partake in anything illegal, but if I were to hypothetically do that, it was very difficult and we would have gotten in trouble if we were found out. Anyway, it's basically becoming legal and it's not really causing more people to try it or to partake. Here's a study, actually, again from ABC News. Marijuana use did not climb following legalization in states. Recreational pot has become more legal for more Americans, but despite that ease of access, marijuana hasn't been ignited. Its use, A study released Monday found. An article published in the Journal of American Medical Association found that there was no increase in cannabis use among the general population or among previous users after their states legalized marijuana. Researchers surveyed about 830,000 Americans over the age of 12 on their reported cannabis use, both before and after recreational marijuana was passed in their state. The study looked at data between 2008 and 2017, and that is a beautiful looking plant. Washington State and Colorado became the first states to legalize recreational marijuana in 2012, after which marijuana use saw a slight increase among Hispanic and white participants, researchers said. The study also found that there was no changes in cannabis use or cannabis use disorder for individuals between the age of 12 and 20 in the states that legalized the substance. As of September 27th, 18 states and the District of Columbia have legalized recreational marijuana use for adults over 21. In this year alone, 4 states, New York, New Mexico, Virginia, and Connecticut, legalized the substance. And it is, it should be legal. The founding fathers smoked it. That's right. They did. Yes. Our founding fathers used cannabis. Here is a you deal with it kind of vibe. Yeah, early reports of cannabis in America date back to Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement in the New World. However, the settlers were not bunkered up in their wooden homes toking up and daydreaming of warmer days and more food. Rather, the settlers grew hemp and used it in manufacturing, which I might add, thank you, Donald Trump, for making hemp legal federally. I think he did that in 2018. Awesome. Because we should be using it for clothes, for paper, for all sorts of things. Because it's a weed. That's why they call it weed. It just grows. It will grow if you let it. It grows so quickly. And we need the trees. Keep the trees, grow the weed. All right? Even the founding fathers did it. Although I do think some of them actually did smoke it. So this is kind of a long article. I'm not really going to read this whole thing because it was more about the Egyptian thing that, hey, they did it. And now we're finding out that it's not that more people are even smoking. It's staying constant. So we should legalize it everywhere and maybe get rid of tax completely.